Hey guys, reporting in live and late once again from Mexico City, right about here. So now you know where I am. You can come find me, stalk me, spy on me. I'm sure that's your innermost dream and life goal. Anyway, I talked to you yesterday about hypercorrection and proper correction. Let's do part two. Correction, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because I recorded this clip yesterday and then I thought to myself, what were you thinking, Vladimir? What if somebody actually jumps on that pendulum, and goes from one extreme to the other and starts believing that all correction anywhere is bad? That would be equally as bad and horrid. Correction definitely has its place in the world, right? Like, where would teaching be? Training, coaching, raising kids, Quality control is vital and crucial not only for translation teams, but for individual people and societies and churches and countries and sports teams and so forth. It's crucial, honestly. But I don't want to get, philosophical or anthropological or too historical or whatever, but it's totally, totally crucial. But it all comes down to how contextually appropriate that correction is, how tactful it is, and how helpful it is. And by the way, let me define, I'm sure you know this word, but it's just one of my favorite words ever. And it's not wine, and it's not running, and it's not dating, God forbid. It's the word tact. And Oxford tells us that tact is adroitness and sensitivity in dealing with others or with difficult issues. Webster says a keen sense of what to do or say in order to maintain good relations with others or avoid offense. And Cambridge says the ability to say or do the right thing without making anyone unhappy or angry. Now, that I don't actually agree with. I don't think it's really ever possible to, well, maybe sometimes, to act without offending or hurting anyone. I mean, we should strive for it, but that should never be the goal. The goal should be as little as possible. But tact is really important in correcting. I have something I call the sandwich technique. I don't remember where I learned it from, but it goes like this: compliment, critique, compliment. Like, for example, if I'm having coffee at a coffee shop and I say, this is just a beautiful concoction of whatever, whole milk and cream and coffee. I love the texture. Now, it would be nice not to have cockroaches in your coffee. I'm just kidding. Maybe something less dramatic. It would be nice if it were a little hotter because it's just slightly cold for me. But I love your coffee shop. The ambience is great. So I've put in my correction, but I started and ended with something nice. It doesn't always have to be that way. That's kind of like a raw correction when they didn't ask for one. That's just a technique I use and it works. But let's do an example, an absurd example. One end of the spectrum of absurdity would be, let's say that you're listening to a colleague interpret, and they say car instead of sedan, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said car because it was sedan. Don't you know, you doofus, you idiot, you bad person, mule, donkey, ass, that it's supposed to be sedan? Stop right now, I'm going to take over. That would be a little bit overbearing, hypercorrective, and so forth. I mean, nobody in their right mind would probably do that. And by the way, I don't agree with one high caliber interpreter who once said, her name actually was Julia, and she said that you should never correct your booth partner. Why not? Just do it tactfully and do it in a way that shows respect. But I think you're respecting people more if you offer a gentle correction, because it's sincere. Anyway, the other end of the spectrum would be, let's say that an editor or reviewer is reviewing a text and it says hippopotamus and it's supposed to say alligator, or maybe it even says crocodile and it's supposed to say alligator, and the reviewer is like, it's a very nice translator, and they're a little introverted, and I just, maybe I'll just let it be because they're both reptiles or they're both animals. No, I mean, that's your job. People would say that's what you're getting paid for, but to heck with pay, not to heck with pay, but it's your professionalism, it's your pride. So of course you correct it. But between these two extremes is a whole other spectrum. And again, the question is it helpful? Is it effective? And are you doing it to show that you're so cool, smart, wise, and better than everybody, and they're a no one? Or are you actually doing it to help the person? I offer a lot of corrections in running, in translation, and interpreting in life. And one important thing is agreement. When people have agreement, it obviously creates a certain mutual reality, right? Like if I show you this and I say, what is this? And you say, well, Vladimir, it's a macrocosm within a microcosm. And I say, no, actually, it's just my earbuds. And then we argue, there is no reality. If we have a reality, then we can agree. So it is actually very good in whatever situation to establish an agreement. Like I remember going to running seminars with Dr. Nicholas Romanov, and he would make this pact with his students. He would say, I don't care what happens after, but for the next 2 days, do you guys agree for me to be the coach and for you to be the students? And the moment they say yes, they've automatically agreed to correction. That's actually really good. And it never hurts to do that, even if your stature and your status and your rank allows you to do that anyways. And sometimes it does. Sometimes people, see you as an authority, God forbid, and they come to you for advice. And if they come to you for advice, well, okay, then you can easily offer correction. Is unsolicited correction always bad? Not necessarily. If it aligns with your integrity and you feel like you need to make it. But in that case, I would say, do you mind if I just share my viewpoint on something? Viewpoint is much better than correction because everybody gets a little bristly, when you say the word correction. In Russian, we say like a hedgehog, right? Like they put their needles out. And if you say, I'm going to correct you, they'll be like, who are you? But if you say, do you mind if I share a helpful viewpoint? And then you do it. Or even if you don't get permission, it's still okay. And you can say, something like, this applies to many scenarios. Like, let's say you see a colleague's translation or interpretation. I would probably use the sandwich technique. I would say what's good about it. And then I would say, it depends. It depends on the context. Let's say I see their translation and there's something that could be better, or there is a mistake. Yeah, I would probably actually get their agreement, especially if they're of my caliber or a better not necessarily better, but higher status. And I definitely have people in my circle of friends who are higher status, and I definitely would not shy away from correcting them. Even a presidential interpreter, even an elite interpreter, even a super experienced interpreter. But I would be like, there is something I noticed that I wanted to communicate and say, and I hope you don't mind, if I say that, and then I would say the thing. And even if I didn't necessarily get their explicit agreement, I probably would still say it, but I would phrase it very, very politely, as if it's just my viewpoint and as if I'm soliciting their agreement. If you don't mind, I would like to share my viewpoint, and then just go ahead and share the viewpoint. I know I'm rambling. It all depends on the context. The point here is not how to say it. The point is that correction can be very, very good, but it needs to be helpful. It needs to be truthful, it needs to be real, or you need to voice it as your viewpoint. That's actually I just stumbled upon a treasure trove, or the gem of maybe what I wanted to say. It's really important to differentiate facts from opinions. When people foist off their opinions as facts upon you, like that is extremely annoying, not to say disgusting, But if they say, my opinion is that this synonym would work better there. Just imagine, let's say somebody calls something green, and you say, well, I think malachite would work better here. Okay, well, that's your opinion, but it's not a fact of life necessarily. I think that the time is getting the better of me, and I probably need to end off, but I just needed to share this thought. Not all correction is bad. In fact, it is super helpful. It helps us become better. It helps us become professionals. It helps us grow. I've been corrected many times in the last few days. Oh, here's an example. I'm coaching my friend Vicente to do tours in Russian. He's a Colombian who lives in Mexico. He's a polyglot, and his Russian is pretty decent, but a little funny right now. Like, he confuses different words. In Russian, we have this word завоевание, conquest. And when he first started saying it, I thought that he was saying завывание, howling, or забывание, forgetting. So that's where pronunciation comes in. But he wants me to correct him, and so it's very easy, right? And it's a big deal. Like, do people want you to correct them? And you can actually make more enemies than you'd care to shake a stick at if you correct people unsolicited. And maybe I'm contradicting myself, except I'm not, because it's okay if your integrity demands it, but just do it really tactfully. So again, just to review: helpful, truthful, ideally with agreement from the person, and nice. Nobody really canceled out being nice, being humane, and so forth. And not trying to place yourself on a pedestal and place them in a ditch. No, grant them lots of importance. Show them that you're doing it as a friend. That's probably the key point. As a friend. If they understand that you're doing it as a friend, even if you're a mentor, people will love you for it. In fact, people love truthfulness and straightforwardness and earnestness and so forth. Okay, guys, I need to go to sleep. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you in the next clip.